Thank you for choosing to watch this video. This is a little fly I came up with after playing around with some nymphs and using the angel hair tail on those, thinking it would work quite well on a wet fly. Start off by mounting your hook in the vise and testing the hold and hook. Here I'm using a Fulling Mill Heavyweight Champ barbless. And then catch on your thread. Here I'm using Semperfli's classic waxed in 8/0 in a Primrose colour. Once you've caught your thread on, remove the waist tag and form the underbody in touching turns. You want to take the underbody to the back of the shank, or roughly where the barb would be on a standard barbed hook. Next we're going to catch in a small bunch of the pink angel hair. This is from hens as the tail. Don't worry too much about the length, just make sure you've got enough to form the tail size you want. Catch it in on top of the hook. See, try and take care to keep sure it lies on top of the hook. Keep your underbody nice and smooth and a consistent profile. Tie it down for the full length of the body to try and maintain that profile and smooth underbody. Trim off the excess. And tidy up the top. So next I'll catch in the gold wire rib. I'll catch this in up towards the head of the fly and tie it down along the length of the body, again to maintain the profile. And tying it in at the head of the fly at this point saves us having to too many runs of thread along the body. And just rotating the vise to make sure I can see where the rib's lying, and I'm happy with where it is. We want to make sure now that we've got the rib and tail tied down to the full extent of the body and in the right places where we want them to be sitting. At this point I tuck the rib out of the way. Now we want to dub the body. Here I'm using natural Mad Rabbit dubbing from Trout line. It's a nice easy dubbing to use and gives a nice buggy body. Apply the dubbing to the thread. I find you don't need to add any more wax to this thread, but dampening your fingers helps. Twist the dubbing onto the thread using quite a lot of pressure between your thumb and finger, always twisting in the same direction. As always with dubbing bodies, use as little dubbing as you think you need. You can always add more, but it's difficult to take some away. I want to try and keep a slim profile and an increasing taper along the body of the fly. I like to add my dubbing in stages, so dub a small section of the body, add a bit more, and continue until you finish the whole body. I find this helps me control the taper a lot easier. You want to leave a couple of mil or maybe a hook eye's length at the head of the fly to tie in both the head and body hackles. Once you're happy with the body, we have to tie in the palmered hackle. Here we're using a cock hackle. I dyed myself a Western Island Golden Olive. This is a soft, webby cock hackle. You could use a genetic hen. These hackles give plenty of movement to the fly, which I like, being a bit softer than a genetic cock hackle. Catch in the stem with a few turns forward, then a few turns back over it, with the stem doubled back, and break away the waist. You're now ready to palmer the hackle. Catch the hackle tip with your hackle pliers. You can put a turn or two of hackle at the head and then palmer. Here I've gone with a single turn for a slightly lighter dressing. Oh, there goes the hackle tip, being a bit too heavy handed. Don't panic, you can always re-go. And to palm your hackle in even open turns down the body. Four or five turns should be plenty. Catch in your hackle with the rib and just go straight to winding the rib up the body of fly. Again, in even open turns, trying to match the spacing of your hackle. Once you've got the rib in front of the hackle, catch in with your thread. Get the wire out of the way and throw on another couple of turns to secure. Helicopter off the wire and break away the hackle tip. Sometimes it's better to break away the hackle tip before you helicopter the rib, just in case something goes horribly wrong. Trim the tail to length. And then make sure you're happy with everything sitting and tidy up the head of the fly. Try and make sure there's no loose fibres going forward of the eye. Then I like to take Velcro to my flies, especially wet flies, to pull out the dubbing into the hackle and make sure I've got a nice buggy body. You could do that after you've tied in the head hackle as well. So I'm now preparing the hen hackles that will tie in at the head. This is a little bit of a footer as there are two of them. So, as usual, trim away the fluff from the base of the feathers. Then check the feathers for size. You want to make sure there's enough length in the barbules to cloak the body hackle. Something in the region of 1.5 times the length of the barbules of the body hackle should be sufficient. And make sure you've got two feathers of the same size for the head. Pull the barbules back to reveal the tips and align the tips together, and we'll tie them in at the same time. Doing this and winding the hackles together mixes the colours of the hackles, and it gives quite a nice effect to the fly. So catch them as you would with a single feather. 3 turns forward, double the tips back, and tidy up. Try and make sure there are no fibres or barbules going forward of the eye. And then we want to try and isolate the feather tips and pull them off. Take your time and make sure you're not holding any of the barbules on the stalk of the feather that you want to keep and wind. And it might help to hold the thread under tension to stop anything pinging off. So, you need to take a little bit of care and be slightly gentle with this step as we pull the hackles together to align the stalks and try and keep an even tension on both. Gripping the hackle pliers and double the feather backwards as we wind on the hackle. As we're winding two hackles at the same time, you quite quickly build a heavy hackle, so a couple of turns should be more than enough for this fly. Catching the feather tips with a couple of turns of thread, double them back, and tidy up the head. Once you're happy with that, hold the thread under tension and break away the waist stop. And then he didn't quite get it all, so I'll go in with the hackle pliers and grab the little bit of waste, and it should come away. There we go. Now put on your whip finish. Three-turn whip finish should be enough to hold this fly. Trim off the thread, make sure you're happy where everything is sitting, and add a little bit of varnish, or as I'm doing here, UV resin. Take your time to avoid getting resin or varnish onto the hackles. I like the resin because it gives a quick, easy finish that looks really good in the fly, but the reality is, for a fishing fly, varnish is just as good. Then set the resin with the UV lamp, and you can see some of the nice effects the different hackle colours have. You'll notice there's a little red tint to the head of the fly. That's from the whip finisher and the fly I must have been tying previously. Another go with the Velcro, just make sure that all the hackles are nicely mixed together, and I'm happy with the profile of the fly. Also checks the strength of the tying. This fly should stand up to a few trout. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it useful. If you have, please drop it a like and subscribe to my channel to be kept up to date with any other videos I publish.